October 11th, Monday, Bears Nation podcast. And for the first time in 2021, it is the second victory Monday in a row for your Chicago Bears. How about that? The Bears take care of the Raiders in Las Vegas, 20-9 in a game that was not particularly close. A game that was ugly, for sure. A very ugly Big Ten football-esque game, but it was a game that the Bears won. 20-9. It wasn't quite the 30-plus points that Kevin and myself predicted, but a win is a win. The Raiders are falling back to earth. They are just all discombobulated. But for the first time in 2021, you're on a winning streak going into what might be one of the biggest games of the year, which we'll talk about on Wednesday. But for now, Kevin, we are breaking down this W against the Las Vegas Raiders, the Bears' first home victory of the year as well. Or first away victory.
Road victory. Yeah, I mean, in the pregame show, I said I'm seeing a statement win by an 11-point margin, and we got a statement win by an 11-point margin. Now, you said it wasn't, I predicted 35-24 is 29, but they dominated this game. I mean, you go into a very, very hard place to play at Allegiant Stadium, and the Bears fans actually traveled really well. They were making a whole lot of noise, so shout out to the Bears fans for that. Hard place to play, though. We know how ruthless Vegas Raiders fans are. An offense that was clicking. Derek Carr leading the league in passing yards going into Sunday, an offense that was on fire, and you hold them to 9 points. Yeah, there's things that they could have done better offensively. We'll break that down. But this is like we talked about, the lack of statement wins throughout the tenure of Matt Nagy, or really since 2019. I mean, the Buccaneers comes to mind. There's some other games that come to mind. This was a very necessary statement win. I mean, you look at now the rest of the division, the Bears have the most wins in the division in the NFC North against teams with a winning record. The Packers have won. The Vikings, I don't even know if they have won, and I know the Lions are winless. So you have the most wins against winning teams in the division at this point of the season. You're at 3-2, and had Evan McPherson not missed 2 field goals. Yes, Mason Crosby missed 3 of them. You'd be tied for the lead in the NFC North. The current playoff picture, if the season ended today, the Bears would be in the playoffs with the 6th seed, not even with the additional 7th seed. So you like where you're at. You're in a good spot as far as where you're at after week 5. And that was a win that sets the tone now as you have to go back home and play Green Bay in an extremely crucial division game. So a must win, a statement win. Very, very, very excited to see what the Bears did on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, this was, and you mentioned the defense, this was a classic Bears defense that we're used to. This was what we come to expect from this Bears team, a team that goes out and grinds and will absolutely shut you down. There were some gaudy numbers that were put up on the board. Roquan Smith in the double digits with tackles again. Khalil Mack was all over Derek Carr all night. He only had 1 sack, but he had a tackle for loss, 7 solo tackles. He was all around the quarterback. DeAndre Houston Carson comes up with a nice interception where he basically became the receiver. And so it was, you're right, Kevin, there were things you could have done better. There were a couple times where you got a break when some Vegas receivers couldn't catch wide open passes and they dropped them, got bailed out a couple times. But for the most part, I mean, this was a Bears defense that played like it was 2018.
It felt like 2018. And where does that start? Who's that start with? It starts with you. I mean, Matt Nagy said that in the post-game press conference today. He was all over the field. I guess he doesn't get official credit for a sack that occurs on a 2-point conversion, but that play in itself is an incredible play that, had they gotten that, the Bears still probably would have won, but it would have made things more interesting. 1-score game going down the stretch. Who knows? That was an incredible play, providing pressure that opens things up for Robert Quinn. And this is what I said, Jake. I mean, you could tell too, when Akeem Hicks was ruled inactive this week, it was less of a worry. It was less of a concern. We saw the pressure. It was still there. And it starts with those guys on the edge. You would have liked to see a little bit more pressure from, an Eddie Goldman, from a Bilal Nichols, but those guys were still getting home. Mario Edwards was, though, he has used to figure out about committing penalties after the play. But it starts with 52, it ends with 52. You look at the success of this defense, it revolves around Khalil Mack. And he was ready to play against his former teammate, Derek Carr. They kept talking about their friendship on the broadcast. I didn't know their friendship and relationship was that strong, but it didn't matter on Sunday. He got after him. That is what is going to make this defense run. And Jake, I said, I'm stupid. I'm stupid because I said weeks ago, I was like, I didn't think this defense was at a point early on in the year to where you'd be winning games 20-9. You'd be winning games, by lower scores. I was like, this you're going to have to get to the point where today's NFL, you're looking at Chargers Browns 47-42. That's how, that's not going to be the case every game, but that's more, you're going to have to win more games off of offense. Boy, was I wrong. This is looking like a top 5 defense at this point. I don't know what other teams did. They might still lead the league in sacks after Sunday. We have to wait for Monday Night Football results as well. But they're playing like a top 5 defense, and that is something that we didn't expect after the first 3 weeks of the year.
No, it absolutely wasn't. And Khalil Mack now overtakes Robert Quinn for the team lead in sacks, which is what you expected. Elsewhere, though, I mean, you also had sacks from both Gibsons. Tayshaun Gibson Sr. had one, and Trevis Gibson had one. And Trevis Gibson, in his second year, I mean, he did not impress as a rookie. People were wondering if he'd be able to stick around. He was on kind of a watch list to maybe be cut this year, and he's a sack in back-to-back games now. He looks like a guy that can be a cornerstone with Jalen Johnson going forward, so that's great to see as well. But you're right. I mean, all last week, even I was saying that you're going to have to start scoring 30 plus and you're going to have to start putting up points. And I was wrong too. I said, if you want to beat the Raiders, you're going to have to put up points and score with them. And you did most of the scoring on your end, bolstered by a very, very effective running game, which we'll get to. But I mean, this, like I said, this was reminiscent of the 2018 team. Obviously, it's not the 2018 defense because that team was a historic defense and they set records literally. Right. But I mean, just to, like you said, it all revolves around Khalil Mack, and he looked great. And we kind of knew that would happen going against his old team again, but still, I mean, it's just everyone is doing their part for the most part. I would say, I mean, if I had to grade the defense, I mean, I'd put it at like an 8.5, 9 out of 10. I only put it that low because you did get bailed out a couple times. There were some blown coverages where you got lucky with some drop passes by the Raiders. But for the most part, this was the most sound game, I think, from the defense thus far.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be. It has to be. Yeah, I mean, bailouts happen every game with every team. I mean, there's going to be, penalties. I mean, you could look at it both ways. The Bears could have gotten off the field multiple times, but Mario Edwards commits, unnecessary roughness. He throws a guy to the ground. There's roughing the passer. There are things of that nature. There's that call against Roquan Smith in the end zone. What the hell was that?
Yeah.
I mean, he's leading with the shoulder. That's how you teach kids how to tackle. I mean, yeah, you don't want to go for the head, but if you're going to make the tackle in that area, you do it with the shoulder. That was a textbook tackle. Terrible call there. I mean, it goes both ways about getting bailed out. So, I mean, you have to, I would almost give it a 10 out of 10, Jake. I mean, there's really, like, you look at the one time the Raiders got in the red zone, it was penalties that caused them to get up to the 1 and the 2, and they still took them a whole bunch of plays. There was no gasher. I mean, there was a few 20-plus yard plays, but there was nothing gashing that.
There was nothing that broke your
defense. Nothing that broke you. And I talked in the pregame show, like, wow, this team has been so good, bend, don't break. And Roquan Smith said on the mic last week too, like, I don't care if people think that's the way. If we are bend, don't break, that's fine. We're not allowing points on the board. But they needed to be better in between the 20s. That was for sure. And they did that. The Raiders were not having success. They were getting that team off the field. Young Baller 24 in the chat says, can we give credit to how amazing Sean Desai has been? Yes, we can give credit. He's been great with his coverages, his personnel as well. The things he's been dialing up. I like the blitz percentages we've seen. I have to look deeper into sort of the details on that before next week about how much blitzing and how much we've really seen there. Mm-hmm. Also interesting too, Jake. Dan Trevathan came back. What did you see from him that you liked versus Ogletree? Because they were kind of, like I said in the pregame show, sort of a mix and match. 50. I don't know what the exact snap share was, but it was
they were both out half.
Yeah,
I would say, I mean, obviously I wasn't looking for Danny Trevathan versus Alec Ogletree, but I mean, I think he was fine. I think we know they were mixing matching, and I think they did a good job of that, especially with a tight end like Waller. And we know he's Derek Carr's favorite target. And a lot of times last year, Danny Trevathan cost you big chunk plays, and you didn't see that this week. So if they keep doing that and doing the mix and match, I'm perfectly fine with that. And I'm perfectly fine with doing it in that way. I mean, they both played well. I think if we're not talking about them too much. So I think that means they had a good game, or at least a sound game. They had 9 tackles between the two of them. So I'll take that all day. If you're putting two linebackers together to make one, that's fine with me, especially like that. If you can use the other to hide or cover the other's deficiencies, I'm perfectly fine with that. One thing I want to highlight is the Raiders only went 1 for 3 on 4th down attempts. That's huge. They went 5 for 14 on 3rd down. that's great. I mean, like you just said with Desai, that's just good scheming when you can do that. And it's great. I mean, the fourth down, especially. I mean, that's especially when you have to stand up, have to make a play. You can't, and that says a lot about this team, I think. And we're going to get into the offense more, but there were a couple times where the offense still was on the field for too short of a time for what the defense was 100%. Doing for you. But I mean, we're talking about the good stuff right now. And again, this was a very sound, good wire-to-wire performance by the defense, and really is encouraging for this upcoming week, which we'll talk about against the Packers, which we'll obviously talk about on Wednesday.
I'm not going to lie, Jake. I got worried in the fourth quarter. I really did, because you saw the offense go conservative. I'm like, this is textbook how the Bears are going to lose this football.
And you could see Vegas was keying in on it, because you knew you were going to go run. And they started keying in on it, and we'll talk about it more in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I did get worried that you were going to have the defense out there too much at the end of the fourth, or the last half of the fourth quarter even, and you were going to make it a ball game. But they stood tall, and the offense ended up coming through too.
Yeah, I mean, like the Raiders traditionally have gone down in the first half and come back in the second half. So it played right into their hands. It did. Had 11-point deficit in the fourth quarter. Raiders come back and win on a game-winning field goal. That's what they've done all year. So for the Bears to actually, know that as well, I'm sure they all had that on their minds in the fourth quarter as well. Say, this is textbook Raiders. This is what they do. This is how they win football games. We got to lock up here and continue to make plays down the stretch. But the thing you see, going back to Desai, what good coordinators do is they take away those offensive players. And the reason why I bring this up is, I don't know if anybody who's listening to this watched the Bills versus the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football, but Leslie Frazier, defensive coordinator of the Bills, is a textbook example of how to take away skill players of the other team. They were double teaming Travis Kelce. They were taking away Tyreek Hill, doing all these different things. That is what you do. And that's what Sean Desai did. The Raiders don't have too many playmakers on offense, and he knows that. So what did they do? And this is what the Bills did against the Chiefs. They just ran cover 2 like 90% of the time to take away the explosive Tyreek Hill play touchdown that's going to break you. They did not let Henry Ruggs get behind them on defense. They keyed in on Darren Waller. They put 2 men on him. They didn't allow Darren Waller to get open, because those are really the only 2 ways that are not really the only 2 ways, but the 2 fundamental ways that it is going to break your defense. So Sean Desai deserves a lot of credit. You find a way to take away the skill players and the guys who make that offense run. In that case, that's Waller, that's Ruggs, that's Jacobs out of the backfield. That's some of those other guys like Kenyon Drake and gadget plays. You're going to win football games. So huge credit to them, and huge credit to, it's not just Desai. Like the one play that stands out to me is you get one-on-one Duke Shelley versus Darren Waller at the 5-yard line, and everyone on God's green earth knows that ball is going to Darren Waller one-on-one. It was a poorly thrown ball from Derek Carr, but still it might have been good enough to catch. Good job by Duke Shelley to do that one-on-one. The cornerbacks played better. You're getting better production from those personnel areas and from those position groups that we had more worries about early on in the year.
Yeah, and I mean, when Derek Carr throws the ball 35 times and Hunter Renfrow is his top, receiving leader with 6 catches for 50. I mean, Hunter Renfrow was the receiving leader in catches and yards with 6 for 56. When that's the case, you did a good job, because Darren Waller only brought in half of his targets. He was targeted 8 times, only got 4 for 45 yards. I mean, Ruggs, his longest was 29. Usually in a game, you see Ruggs' longest is like 56. So that's, like you said, I mean, you did a good job covering who you needed to cover, and you took it away from them. And again, a couple times you got bailed out from drops. I think twice that I can think of off the top of my head. But elsewise, I mean, you took it away. And like you said, that ball in the end zone, Duke Shelley did a great job. There was another one at the end of the game. I can't remember who was on him, but Waller went up for a pass, and it kind of looked like it slipped through his hands a little bit. But I thought it was more a mix of nervousness on Waller, because he was about to get hit from 2 sides, and good coverage, and just a ball that he had to go up and get and couldn't come down with it. So yeah, Desai's been great. I mean, again, they've gotten better each week defensively, I think, outside of Cleveland, really, because they were on the field so damn much.
Yeah.
But I mean, it gives you, and I keep saying we'll talk about it Wednesday, but it gives you a little bit of hope, I guess, or it makes you feel a little more confident going in to Sunday against the Packers. Not super confident, given it is a game against the Packers, but a little more confident, given that Derek Carr was just the passing yards leader. Like, he was playing really well. He was in the MVP conversation for a little bit. Surely isn't anymore, but for a little bit he was, and he was playing really well, and you shut him down for all intents and purposes.
And you do it on the road. Again, to do that on the road and stand tall like that, that's that to me, now when you talk about momentum and where we go next week, you go back home. They've all played really well defensively at home, better than they have on the road. So you can take that momentum and knowing how well you play on the road, take it back home to where you've been playing even better. You have a good formula to defeat a Packers team that hasn't necessarily been firing on all cylinders offensively. I mean, sure, they've looked good typically as they do with Aaron Rodgers at the helm, but it hasn't been what we saw last year with Aaron Rodgers as the MVP of the league. It hasn't been anything near that. So this is your start, and this is why I said this game was so crucial. You lose this game, you go 2-3. You know, yeah, you're still in the mix, but then all right, now you got to play Green Bay at home and you don't have the momentum coming off of a loss, and it would, things would be a lot more difficult. And again, it's different too when you win in this fashion versus winning, 22-20 on, a build out play or something, you really shouldn't have won, but you did, things like that. We saw Club Dub, Jake. We saw him getting excited.
Yeah.
We saw where, I don't know, some reminiscence of the things we saw in 2018. And Matt Nagy finally figured out, this is, what has to happen. And this is why I say, I mean, I don't know if Club Dub occurred in the first few games of the year.
Yeah.
Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But, it seems like we're kind of getting back to that point where.
Well, we know it did yesterday because Damian Williams referenced it. Like he directly said.
No, yeah, there's a video. There's a video. And like, that's why I was talking
we
about
know for a fact it is now.
That I think it's what I'm trying to say is that's a representation of where the team is at now following the turmoil that occurred in the first 3 weeks of the season. We were at a low point, and you said that. You said after I think week 3 against Cleveland was like the low point of Matt Nagy's career from a culture standpoint, from where the locker room is at. And we had questions about whether he lost the locker room. And a lot of that had to do with Justin Fields versus Andy Dalton. But there was other factors as well. I think, the play calling, just people's thoughts on Nagy. Sure. That's all out the door now. You don't have to worry about that unless Nagy takes play calling back over, which he won't. Unless he makes Andy Dalton the starter again, which he won't. So now you can focus on the things that you can control. You can focus on everything else. And I think the team is a lot better off for it. But let's talk offense. I know we said we're going to push it off. But overall, I think we have YoungBaller24 in the chat saying Justin has averaged 19 pass attempts per game. How many did he average? Or how many did he have on Sunday? I can't find it exactly.
On Sunday, he had 20 again. Same as
20,
last week.
Yeah, so I had predicted he would get over 30. Boy, was I wrong. But, Jake, the story of the offense comes down to the running backs and what they did in place of Dave Montgomery.
Yeah, so, and here's the thing, and I think that's why there were only 20 pass attempts, because you only needed 20. You were in control of that game, and you went into halftime with an 11-point lead, and you ran for 143 yards. And, I mean, Khalil Herbert, hello, welcome to the show. I mean, I know we were all expecting Khalil Herbert to be a contributor on special teams and as a returner. And never in a million years would I have thought that Khalil Herbert could run that well and that effectively. He was your leading rusher. He was your leading rusher with 18 carries and 75 yards. He outcarried Damian Williams by 2, and he outgained him by 11 yards. I mean, I did not expect Khalil Herbert at any point over his Bears tenure to be the leading ball carrier in both yards and carries. I was stunned, pleasantly surprised, of course. But I mean, we've talked about it so much, how important it is to have that second, third effective rusher. We knew what Damian Williams could do. We knew he would be effective. We knew he would get the job done. But have Khalil Herbert back there too, I mean, running well as well. I mean, that's great. I mean, that is great for you going forward. He didn't get a target, and Damian Williams got 3 targets, but it looks like you're going to be just fine while David Montgomery misses time. And on top of that, once he comes back, you have a good little rotation that you could use too. You could ease him back in if you want.
Yeah, and that's the luxury of that. I mean, I was talking on the show about how I thought Artavis Pierce was going to get more carries than Khalil Herbert. God, am I an idiot for saying that? I mean, I didn't, man, I just, the burst that he has, man, I mean, It is there. I mean, I that's what I didn't expect from it. I mean, I watched the college tape and I knew what he had coming out, but even in the preseason, I mean, shit, I didn't know he had that much burst, and he got more carries than Damian Williams did. I mean, Damian Williams is more of that asset out of the passing game anyway. I mean, that's really where, people find his value as a running back, although he only had 2 receptions, 20 yards. He is a threat there. He scored a touchdown, still had
He's involved.
Yeah, he's involved. But I mean, that, like, this is a good running game, and a whole lot of credit to the offensive line. I mean, this is a pretty good Oakland defense, or Las Vegas defensive front. I mean, they've been playing really well. Max Crosby and Clelin Ferrell and a lot of those guys up front had played well up to this point. And the Bears just dominated the line of scrimmage. I mean, Charles Davis kept talking about the broadcast. He said they are dominating the line of scrimmage, both sides of the ball. There's a video of James Daniels just throwing a guy into a different, galaxy on a block play. I mean, they really imposed their will on them. And this is why I said, Jake, running back's most replaceable position in the NFL. Not one person should be worried about where this Bears offense is going to go with the loss of Dave Montgomery. Yeah, he is an asset. Yeah, he provides value. But man, with what you have with Khalil Herbert and Damian Williams, like, yeah, you're right. It does you like, and to add on to that, Ryan Pace, man. I mean, Travis Gibson, Khalil Herbert. I mean, it just does not end. These late round gems, it's just it's incredible. It's incredible. Now, running back is easier to find,
third dime a dozen.
Third dime a dozen, you know what I mean? But still, credit to him.
The effectiveness with which he's drafted running backs year after year is pretty impressive. I will say, for his faults, Ryan Pace does hit on running back. It seems like year after year after year. But yeah, I mean, this is the interior offensive line you were expecting from day one. James Daniels, Cody Whitehair, and them two especially were supposed to be your top guys. Sam Mustipher as well. I mean, those three in the middle were supposed to be like your rock. That was supposed to be why you could have a good running game, why you would have, Justin Fields protected well. And, you had some questions on the tackle side, but I mean, like you said, James Daniels just throwing people all over the place. Mustipher finally looks like he's getting his legs under him again, which is great. So yeah, I mean, and credit to Bill Lazor, switching out offensive linemen. And I mean, Alex Bars was in and out there.
Unbelievable.
I mean, I loved that. I mean, I think that was really good. I don't know what the effectiveness rate would be on that, or what the purpose is, but hey, if it seemed like it was working. So if it's going to work, by all means, go for it. I mean, I have no problem with that. It was a cool little wrinkle, I think. And I mean, I hate to say it, but credit to Matt Nagy. I mean, he just sat there and he was a leader, and he got mad when he needed to get mad. He challenged, and I thought the challenge was a good challenge too. And he had a decent, I didn't have a problem with him challenging in that spot, I should say. I think it was, sure. I got the reason.
I knew they were going to get it, but
so I mean, I think he did a good job. Now he just has to keep doing it. And to the point where, you mentioned, unless he puts Dalton back in, I think that was the thing. That was the perfect opportunity to put Andy Dalton when Justin Fields went out for a couple plays with a knee injury, and Andy Dalton came in, and we were all thinking, okay, this is it. Great. It's going to be Andy's team again. And Andy Dalton was out there. He was out of there like that. As soon as Justin Fields was ready to go back in, they pulled Andy Dalton's ass off the field. So I think that was the biggest, narrative takeaway from this game, is that it is unquestionably, narrative wise, not, anything that's not from the game, but narrative wise, I think that's the biggest takeaway, is that this is unquestionably Justin Fields' team. And they were 100% honest when they said, we're committed to Justin. He's QB1, because that was the perfect opportunity to put Andy Dalton back in that game if you really wanted to.
Yeah, it was. And I was a little bit worried. that was going to be
we all
the
were.
case.
We all were.
Me and my friends, like, that hyperextension injury, it happens all the time, when you're running around playing, football or whatever. So I knew that he wasn't going to be out for long. But it was still that opportunity. Now, this is, you talk about Nagy, Young Baller 24 again, popping off in the chat. Appreciate you, my boy. Exactly. I always said Nagy should be the Nagy, the coach, not Nagy, the play caller. And this is what we've said all along. This is why Matt Nagy's so stupid in the first 4 weeks of the season, is that no one has a problem. Well, there are still problems. Don't get me wrong. There are still problems with Nagy, the coach, because the development issues about certain players are there. There's certainly still issues, but there are issues that you can fix, I think, with Nagy, the coach. But sure. Nagy, the coach, is a coach that can win you football games. A coach that can take you to the playoffs. Is a coach that can focus on the other aspects of a game, that can focus, on all the other things that are important, while Bill Lazor is calling the plays. And that's what we've said for all along. And that's why Jake has said for all along, Nagy's job could be safe, and probably at this point will be safe. if they continue to win and if they make the playoffs, if he's just Nagy the coach. Because honestly, speaking from the players too, I don't know if they have a problem with Nagy the coach either.
No.
I really don't think they do. I mean, they had problems with Nagy the coach, Nagy the decisions made by Nagy. Certainly, there was turmoil in that locker room about I think his play calling decisions, his quarterback decisions. But as Nagy the coach, I mean, they really have nothing but great things to say about the culture and the things that he's built. So if they focus on that, if that is back, yes, that is a coach that you can win with. Now, there are still better options as the head coach of the Chicago Bears. He is not the best option to be the coach, but for what you have right now and the current 2021 team, you have a coach that can win you football games. Now, I want to go to the comment by T. Hulk here. Dare we say we finally have an offensive guru in Bill Lazor? No, we do not. And I'll tell you why. An offensive guru would win that game 35-10, probably more like 31-10, 28-10. They only won that game 29. Why? You get a turnover. DeAndre Houston Carson makes a hell of a play. What do you do after that? 3 straight running plays. 3 straight running plays. What did I say? You don't your defense allowed you to win this game for sure, but there's a very good chance that they don't win that game. And we go back and say, what the hell? Why are we running 3 straight running plays after a turnover when you could have pushed this to an unreachable game in the third? I think that would happen in the third. Was that late third or early fourth quarter, that Carson interception? But that's I have a few other gripes. That's my main gripe is you had the chance to blow that team out of the water, dominate them offensively, and you didn't do it. I would have liked to see that.
Yeah, I get why you wanted to run, because you wanted to drain the clock, and your running game was working very efficiently. But yeah, I mean, you got to let the kid throw, and that's what I want to address next is 20 passes. He didn't have the best day, 12 for 20, 111 yards. He did have the touchdown, but I mean, you got to let the kid throw some more, and he did. He delivered down a couple big boy throws down the stretch there to keep the clock running and got you a couple first downs because he was moving. But I will say, we saw the movement, we saw the bootlegs a couple more times. We definitely saw the play action more, and we saw the option plays more, which was great. It was a step in the right direction for sure. But I mean, that's some of the things with Justin Fields is that that's kind of the growing pains we were talking about a couple times. He's going to grow, and you would have liked to see him have a better, gaudier stat line against this depleted Vegas secondary. But I mean, again, you were running it so well, it kind of didn't matter. But yeah, I would have liked them to let him throw more than 20 times and give him more opportunities, let him get him more of a rhythm. But that's fine. You still won. You still were able to lean on the run. You're right. The 3 straight running plays, can't be doing that. Got to figure that out. A couple of people in the comments saying that was Nagy. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, maybe it was. Who knows? He definitely, I mean, I know he had the play sheet. There were a couple times he called plays. But if Matt Nagy is going to be in charge of, out of 50-something plays, Matt Nagy calls 6 of them, I'm fine with that. I will take that all day long instead of 54 out of 54. If he has 6 out of 54, perfect. Great. Awesome. I mean, granted, they might not have been in the best spot, but overall, I will take those odds. So, I mean, overall, yeah, I mean, the offense still has some things that they're figuring out clearly. But the thing is, people, that's what you're going to have with a rookie quarterback. You're going to have to take the time for it to get traction, for it to get its legs under it. This is Justin Fields' second start. I mean, really, if you're not counting Vegas or not counting Cleveland. So really his second real start in which he's had a game plan and time, and the cast around him has also played well. So it's going to take some time. It's not going to be perfect right away. It's probably not going to be perfect all year. Maybe in the last couple of games, we'll finally start seeing what this offense could be. But right now, let's just take it for what it is. And let's be happy with a solid offensive line, a very, very good running game, and coaching decisions that didn't lose you the game. I think we should be happy with that. I think we should be really happy with overall getting the win in the way you did, because wire to wire, it was a very sound Bears football game. Wire to wire, from start to finish, it was sound, it was fundamental, and you won the game. I think that's super important because we have not seen that. Even in the Lions game, really. It wasn't wire to wire, the most sound game. This was sound. Mm-hmm. There was minimal complaints that any of us I had. I think, at least speaking for myself, that I had minimal complaints from start to finish. And that's the first time I've said that in probably over a year.
I would agree. Probably since, well, the Jacksonville game last year and the
Sure,
Houston
yeah.
game
So
last year.
those
But again,
blowouts.
those aren't games against winning teams on the road 3-1 at a hard place to play like Vegas. So that's the difference.
Those are
Now, I
games
want to
you
go back.
expected to be. Those were games you
Right.
expected to blow them out. This game you went in as an underdog. This was only
Yes.
This was Matt Nagy's second win as a heavy underdog against the spread and straight
That's
up.
it.
Yes, 2 for 14.
Wow. That's incredible. I did not know that. That is
Yeah.
incredible. That just goes to show. Now, one thing too, I want to go back to play calling real quick. What the Bears need to do, what other great offensive teams in the NFL do, is reject the ideology that you have to call the game based off of game flow. And what I mean by that is, this is what they understood in the third quarter. You're up at that point, 20-9 or whatever. I don't know when they scored that. I don't know when they pushed it to 29. You were up by, it was before that, 17-6 or whatever. I don't know. Before whatever, I don't remember exactly what it was. You're up by enough. Now, what they recognize game flow. Okay, so this is what game flow is. Bears playing great defense. Raiders can't go anywhere. We have a good lead. About 18 minutes maybe left on the clock. Run it down. You have the chance. The defense is playing well. You don't got to do too much on offense. That's game flow. That's what you recognize. That's what you think. Great teams have to reject that. The Buffalo Bills last night, playing in torrential downpour, up 11 points against the Kansas City Chiefs, went right down the field, passing the football in torrential downpour, and just poured it on them. Why? Because they know that, shit, if we don't score a touchdown here, you get Patrick Mahomes the ball back with 11 minutes, or with a whole quarter and 11 points.
Yeah, too much time.
Too much time. So, that's where, yes, this Raiders team offensively was good, but even when you go play Green Bay, say you're up 20-9 against Green Bay, you can't follow game flow. You can't. You have to go down the field. You have to push it 27-9. You have to put that game out of reach, because those best teams, and come playoff time, come the important games down the season against the better offenses, they're gonna know that. They're gonna take advantage of you getting complacent and you getting conservative in the third and fourth quarter, and they're gonna come back and beat you. All it takes is one defensive error. One defensive error, they score, momentum shifts, game over. That's all it takes. It's one simple thing. Even if your defense has played good for the first 45 minutes, first 50 minutes, all it takes is one little error, one little tweak. They get back on you. 11 points is not enough. And that's why, I'm content wire to wire. That's a great win. But you have to keep that foot on the gas pedal, as Young Baller 24 says. You have to keep it going. You have to
have that step on their throat mentality.
Yes.
Yes. So here's the thing with that is that, and I said this last week, the important thing right now is to just keep getting in. I do think it was a lot of game flow. I think they were happy with where they were at and they were just trying to protect the lead. But also I think it's a little bit of what I talked about last week, where you just got to take those baby steps and build those, just keep building those blocks until you can get to that offense to where you want to be. And yeah, I would have liked to see them throw more, and I just don't think they're in a place yet from an offensive standpoint where, like I said, Justin Fields' real second start, third if you want to count the Cleveland game. This was the first game where your offensive line played its best. I think they're just not ready for that yet. You know what I mean? I think it was partially game flow for sure, but I think it was also knowing the strengths of the team at that point, because Justin Fields, of course, if you asked him, I'm sure would tell you, I'm ready to go put a knife in their throat for sure. Let's do it. Let's throw it on the field.
Right.
And we saw a little bit of that with that 3rd and 12 to Mooney when he got the first down. And then he got another tough first down when it was 3rd and 8 or something. So you saw the mentality. I think it's just the Bears knowing they're not entirely ready for that and hedging a little bit, because if you do that and then you get an interception or a fumble or something, then that's even worse. So I think it's knowing where your team is at as well. Knowing that you had the effective running game. Justin Fields is still kind of getting used to this and getting that chemistry, because the chemistry was better, I think, with the receivers this week too. But you're still not ready to ask him to do that. You already have the lead, so maybe not push things too far yet. They did it a couple times. The 3rd and 12 with Mooney being the key one, I think. But they're not ready to say, all right, let's do it all the time, all out, breakneck speed, balls to the wall, let's just go for it. I think they're slowly building up to that. And I think it's just knowing that you're probably not there yet. You're not at that Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Buffalo Bills level yet. You hope you can be there eventually. But as of right now, October 11, 2021, Justin Fields' third start, you're not quite there yet. So you kind of you got to, and that's where I say, and obviously I'm a Bears fan too. Of course, I want to see them do that and step on people's throats, but it's also the rational part you got to think of. All right, where is this team at logistically and scheme wise, and where people are at chemistry wise, and then take it in that scope too. And oh, boo, that's not fun. Let's be mad for no reason. We're Bears fans, of course we like to be mad, but take it for what it is and just go very, very slowly. It's baby steps. Of course, we want the hungry bear mentality. Yeah, it's the Packers. You obviously want to go in that, but I'm more worried about the long term. And I think long term, they're just slowly building up to where we want to be. Hopefully, we can be the Buffalo Bills one day. Obviously, would love that, but it took the Buffalo Bills Josh Allen's full first year before
it took them a long time.
So,
Josh Allen was not good for his first 2 years.
Right. And Josh Allen, people were ready to sell the house on him. They were ready to set sail on Josh Allen and say, all right, the Bills need another quarterback. So it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, I know it's not easy, but patience is the key here.
I hate patience.
I do too. But hey, you come into, and we'll talk about it Wednesday too, but you go into a Packers defense that hasn't been that good either, and is probably going to be missing their top defensive back. So,
he's out. He was put on IR, so he's out.
Yeah,
Alexander's out. You have to. And they've got rookie Eric Stokes over there, who's probably going to be shadowing Allen Robinson. Again, we'll dive into all this in the pregame show. But Allen Robinson, I mean, the man just catches everything that comes his way. I mean, it doesn't matter. Again, not gaudy numbers. I just traded for him in fantasy, so I would love to see those 100-yard. And I know, but look, I think I traded for him at the right time. I mean, I bought very low on Allen Robinson because this, you talk about patience. You talk about a player who's bound to explode. If there's anybody in the league who's bound to explode, it's Allen Robinson. I mean, it'll
happen sooner rather than later.
It will happen. It will happen sooner rather than later. Once that chemistry, that chemistry I think already exists between him and Justin Fields. There was a number of plays where critical situations, we're throwing the ball to Allen Robinson because he's our guy. You know what I mean? He's still that go-to guy that you're going to throw the ball to. It's just, again, it goes back to he's only throwing the ball 20 times. Allen Robinson's not going to get 15 of them. Yeah. You know what I mean? You just, in order for those numbers to increase, the passing attempts have to increase first, So that for the sake of all Allen Robinson fantasy owners, be patient, still start him next week. I think next week's the breakout week. There's going to be a breakout week. I thought it would be this week. I think it'll be next week when you go up against a Packers secondary that's decimated and, hasn't looked great. But, I mean, we talked to I brought up the stat last week. I don't remember where I find it, if I can find it. The Bears there it is. The Bears after a win since 2018 are 18-10. Turn that to 19-10. All right? So they roll. I mean, they roll after wins. So that's why they're a streaky team. Streaky team, here and there. You saw last year they started off, 5? Did we start off 5-0 or 4-0?
4?
4 or 5. I can't remember exactly what it was. I mean, it was at least 4. Start off 4-0. I mean, this team has the capability to do it, and not just against lesser opponents. They do it against good teams. They beat the Buccaneers last year. They beat, who else? I can't remember. I don't want to remember last year. Don't make me remember last year anyway.
Bears started the year 6. No, they started the year 3-0. Then the Colts, so 3. So they started 5-1. They started 5-1.
Right. Well, okay. Right. But nonetheless, they can compound wins together. And once they get momentum, once they get rolling, club dubs rocking. You think back to 2018, they had a whole bunch of winning streaks that year. I think they might have won 6 in a row at one point that year. That's why this game is so important. Yes, you figure out things about the rushing game. Yes, the defense looks good, but more important than all of that is that momentum aspect that everyone in the chat is bringing up, because everybody recognizes that. Everybody knows that's what this team has been built on the past few years. That's what they're built on, the momentum and the culture. And when you have that thriving, they can be a very, very, very hard team to beat. So especially at home, Sunday is going to be fucking loud, man. I mean, I wish I was going to the game. Justin Fields' home start as the official quarterback, one official home start as the official, you can spin that any way you want against Green Bay, against rivals. And someone in the chat mentioned earlier, Justin Fields plays well against his rivals. That man destroyed Michigan the first time he played them. He only played them once because the game got canceled last year due to COVID. Destroyed them. He understands the impact of rivalry games. He understands the Packers-Bears rivalry based off of that clip we saw when he was talking about his center, Josh Myers, playing for the wrong team in Green Bay. He said that like a week or two after he got drafted. He knows what that rivalry means. It's important, and he is going to come out. It's going to be freaking great on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm excited for Wednesday's show when we break that all down. Continue to talk about the offense, though. I want to bring up another thing because you were talking about Allen Robinson and the targets. I mean, Darnell Mooney and Allen Robinson both led the team in targets. They both had 5 out of the 20 that went around. Mooney with 3 catches, Robinson with 4, 35 yards for Mooney, 32 for Robinson. It seems like it's starting to even out the production level. Again, when you only have 11 completions and 20 pass attempts, it's going to be sparse. But something that I brought up last week and something that we've been waiting for, tight end involvement. Jimmy Graham was out there a lot. Cole Kmet had 4 targets of his own. He was second on the team. Brought in 2 of them for 22 yards. The
Who
long
caught
of
the
14.
touchdown?
So,
touchdown?
And then Jesper Horsted, the man who had his job basically saved by Justin Fields and Nick Foles in the preseason, now catches Justin Fields' first passing touchdown of the year. And yeah, I mean, we saw it. And that's kind of what I mean when I talk about you can't just look at the stats. You can't just, and when you got to be patient. That's another thing. That's a baby step where you can take away something positive from that. Not just Allen Robinson being more involved, but the tight ends getting on the field more and being more involved in the passing game. And I mean, somebody in the chat just said Goodwin too. He was involved. I mean, he only had 1 catch, but he was out there. And we saw a little bit of a diversification of the personnel. And that was something we highlighted last week that we wanted to see more of. And we saw it. So that's one of those baby steps that you got to say, okay, that's a step in the right direction. We're continuing to build on this. And that's how by week 17, week 18, possibly we can be closer to where we want to be, closer to that Buffalo Bills level that you want to be at, closer to those upper echelon offensive teams. We're still figuring it out right now. You got to take it a day at a time, and then to take away little things like that. I know it's seems kind of annoying or dumb to kind of look for little things like that, but it's important, and it's an important sign of progress.
It is important. It's 1,000% important. And where else is it important? Yeah, from the receiving end it is. But look at the blocking. I mean, you talked about Alex Bars coming in. They also ran 13 personnel a few times, which is very rare.
Yeah.
You very rarely see 13 personnel, which features 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, 3 tight ends. And, with Jesse James and your best blocking tight end and JP Holtz out, they were relying on Jesper Horsted and Jimmy Graham to hold crucial blocks on 13 personnel, which is typically a run play, but you can also fool them on play action on plays like that. But, Jimmy Graham is a player who consistently has been talked about as, being a detriment to the team from a blocking standpoint, and only having value as receiver. He blocked well. It's good to get those guys in the mix and change up those personnels and bring in 3 tight ends and get guys involved. And we talk about this offense and how many weapons it has. You have to take advantage of it. I mean, Goodwin and Bird and the speed, and I'm not going to talk about it again. We've talked about it already, but this is an offense that has the capability to do a whole lot of different things. It's one of the most, I think, one of the most multifaceted, diverse offenses in the NFL from a personnel standpoint, especially when you consider Dave Montgomery in there. I mean, it really is the amount of speed and the amount of different players they have at the tight end position, wide receiver position. I personally think it's one of the most diverse offenses, but I think they're just starting to figure out how to utilize those in different ways. And I think it's just a matter of time before you start to see Marquise go an 80-yard touchdown, before you start to see a Demir Bird, wide receiver bubble screen that turns into a 50-yard play. Like, those things are going to happen. And again, I think there is also, you talk about that, maybe not a learning curve, but a curve from Nagy to Laser, that affects Justin Fields. It affects the running backs. It also affects Demir Bird and Marquise Goodwin and, Jimmy Graham and Jesper Horsted, because those guys typically weren't getting opportunities. Those guys are running different plays. They're running different routes. They're not running 8-yard hitch routes now. They're running shot plays. They're running post corners. You know what I mean? They're doing different things, and that changed with play calling. So I think all it is about comfortability, and that is only going to grow and get better week by week. Hopefully you're at a point now where it's enough to get you past the Packers on Sunday. So I mean, Bird, Goodwin, Kmet, Graham, Horsted, Robinson, Mooney, Herbert, Williams. I mean, that's a lot of talent, man. That's a lot of good players who can do a lot of different things. And it's only a matter of time, I think, until we start to see full usage of all of them.
No, and yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's going to take a couple weeks. We also saw some of the designed runs for Justin Fields that you've been banging the table for. Granted, they didn't really do much, but you saw them. You saw them at least.
You saw them. Trey Lance ran 16 times on Sunday.
Yeah, that's wild.
I don't want 16. That is absurd, because
it's a lot.
I mean, 16? holy smokes. I mean, he's not Lamar Jackson. I mean, he's talented, but he's not Lamar. I liked that they were trying it. They were not successful. I didn't really love the designs on some of them. Some of them were just, straight QB draws against 8-man defensive fronts. I don't know. It didn't seem like they were, called in the right situations, the right play calls. But at least they're trying it. At least they understand that it's going to help. I do think part of they shied away from it in the second half because Justin Fields is getting banged around all game. I mean, hyperextended leg,
Right.
clobbered by 2 Raider defenders at some points. I was getting anxious, man. I was like, geez, this guy's going to go down one more time. And he's going to, not good things are going to happen. Right. So I still like the idea, though. More design runs. Obviously, he's talented. Not 16, not 3. Let's go for 6 or 7 per game. That's where we're at. That's what we like.
It's really nice that we have a Monday right now. I think it's the first Monday show of the year that we're not talking about comments that Matt Nagy made. It's really nice.
Man, refreshing.
It's really nice to not have to sit here and be mad about Matt Nagy talking about Andy Dalton or something. It's nice to be able to talk about what happened on the field exclusively.
I know. It's refreshing. And hey, credit to Andy Dalton because he came in for one play and or a few plays, but one pass attempt. It was on 3rd. I think it was 3rd and 8. And he made a good throw, good play, got you the first down, extended the drive. I don't know what ended up happening on that drive, but shout out to Andy. My boy, he made a play. He deserves credit. He was not ready to come to the game. He didn't have his rib protector on. They had to throw the rib protector on because he wasn't even ready for that. He comes in, makes a quality throw. Had to give a little shout out there to Big Andy.
No, definitely does. All right, so let's pick one player from each side. I mean, I think Khalil Herbert's our breakout player for offense, or breakout / most valuable player on the offense.
For week 5?
Yeah, for the Raiders. Yeah.
Yes.
No, for the Raiders game, I should say.
For the Raiders game. Yes, Khalil Herbert, most valuable player, breakout player. Man, I mean, I did not expect it. I really did not. I really did not expect it. It came out of nowhere. They were riding the hot hand with him, and he is a dynamic player, and he's an asset. He's an asset. So yes, breakout on offense. Who are we going on defense?
Defense, you could go a couple. I mean,
breakout or MVP? Because I think there might be.
Yeah, I was gonna say, should we not overthink it and just say Khalil Mack?
Say Khalil Mack. Just say it. I mean, there's I'm not gonna over. I mean, no one else was really like astounding out of the DeAndre Houston Carson. I guess the turnover. But
yeah,
it was.
I mean, that was nice. I mean, yeah, Travis Gibson. Yeah, I mean, we won't overthink it. We'll just say Khalil Mack. But no, I mean, again, just a sound game, just wire to wire was a really solid game that I think we were all really happy with. And it's something definitely to build upon going forward.
There is a breakout player on special teams, though. Did he return that well? No, but boy, do I love Jakeem Grant. I mean, he is going to, I get flashes of Devin Hester out of him where, I don't care if it's 8 yards. At times, this is, a little bit too deep in the end zone, but 8 yards deep in the end zone, we're taking it out. We're running. I mean, the dude has fucking speed, man. And you could already tell the difference. Tell the difference between him and then Simba Webster. And in him, Khalil Herbert was good, but Jakeem Grant is obviously,
that's what he's made his money doing.
That's what exactly. Like he is a polished returner who has done it in the past, who has returned touchdowns. And I don't know if there's been a pure kickoff return this year. I think I don't know if there has been one actually. A pure kickoff
return. There was one last week, wasn't there?
Well, Jamal Agnew returned one off of missed field goal, and Jamal Agnew also had a punt return, I think. There's got to be someone who has one, but I'll make a prediction. He is the next one to get one. Jakeem Grant, next one to get it. The Bears traditionally need a superstar returner. It was Devin Hester. Then we had Benny Cunningham for a few years, and then Tariq Cohen was the man for 2 years until he got injured. It's Jakeem Grant's time. Let's go. He's taking one of the house.
The glaze, the disrespect to Cordarrelle Patterson. I thought that's where that was going.
Did I not bring him up? Oh, my bad. I skipped him. Yes, sorry. I was going to use, yes.
I was going to say, Cordero. Jesus.
And someone says, I can't wait to until we use him in the offense. He was used once. I think I don't know what personnel they're in, like 21 personnel or something with 2 running backs. One to the left was Khalil Herbert. One to the right was Jakeem Grant. I was like, that's pretty cool.
See, the thing with that is you kind of hope, like in the past, I mean, when you used Cordarrelle Patterson, and obviously now he's balling out with the Falcons. But like,
Yeah, of course.
you would hope you wouldn't have to use your kick returner in the offense. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
yeah, you don't have to, but it's like,
I mean, I guess if
you
you're
don't
doing
wanna
it just
waste
to
it.
do it, like because you can or because that's what the scheme calls for, sure. But I'd rather use it because, like, oh, hey, yeah, let's try this, rather than, oh God, we need him to go in right now.
I have a question for you then.
Okay.
I'd never really thought about this. There are people who are critical of the Bears using Devin Hester on offense when he was on the team. What were you ever critical of that?
I don't know if I was aware enough to really have an opinion on it at the time.
Because you're younger?
Yeah, I mean, I was
Yeah.
probably, I mean,
But like in retrospect, like in hindsight now, looking back at it,
in retrospect, I don't hate because it's kind of like Cordell Patterson. Like he's super talented and super fast and big and strong, and like so I don't hate the idea of it, which is like kind of what I'm getting at here too. Like I don't hate the idea of trying it and being like, hey, let's just try something out and see if it sticks, as opposed to at times last year with Cordell Patterson when you look around and you say, oh God, we have no one else. All right, Cordell Patterson, go out there because we need you. Like there's a difference, you know. So
yeah.
I don't hate experimenting. I hate having to use it because you have no one else. So yeah, I mean, I would say no, but I can't remember really being aware enough or knowing enough about the Bears or football to have had an opinion on it. So
Yeah. I'm in the same boat. I mean, come on, guys. I was like 8 years old, 9 years old,
yeah,
10 years
right,
old.
exactly. Yeah, and I'm only a couple years older than you. So yeah, exactly. No, I mean, just to tie a bow on things here, I mean, great win, your first back-to-back win streak, your first win streak, I guess we want to call it a streak, of the year
Sure.
of
It
2021.
technically is, Jake.
Your first road win of the year couldn't come at a better time to kind of start putting a streak together because you do have the rivalry game against the Packers on Sunday to try and go 4-2 and try to get in the division lead. I mean, it's a huge game and it comes early in the year, so we'll see what happens. But to talk about that game, we'll be back right here on Wednesday at 7 p.m. to break that down. The Packers, they're banged up. They're a little banged up, so we'll talk about that. I mean, I already know Kevin's going to pick the Bears. I don't know where I land on that yet, but it's going to be fun. We're going to break it down. Last year, we did not get to have fun with the Packers games, so we're going to have a little bit of fun for sure previewing it, and hopefully we do recapping it. But join us on Wednesday at 7 to break down this game against the Packers. First big rivalry game, the biggest rivalry game to date of the season. And we'll be right here. So we hope you'll join us. Thank you to everyone who listened, who commented. The comments were great today. Everyone who watched, you guys are all great. We will see you on Wednesday. And until then, bear down.
Bear down.
Bye.